Representative Jim Jordan did a lot of projection over the weekend. During a Saturday interview with Newsmax host Sebastian Gorka, he compared the Democrats to slave-owning Nazis whom the Republican Party needs to defeat like they did in the past. Look.
Every third generation in this country has had to do something big. I mean, you think about the founders and what they did when they declared why we were going to be an independent country and what they had to overcome, the greatest military in the world. They did it. 3 generations later, Lincoln and the Americans then held the country together, got rid of the evil of slavery. 3 generations later, America defeated Imperial Japan and Nazi Germany, the evils that those 2 institutions represented, those countries represented, and we won this. The greatest generation won that war. And now here we are, 3 generations later, and the assault is from the radical left. We have to step forward and do our part like previous generations of Americans have done. I think we're up to the task. And again,
the assault is from the radical left. Oh, the radical left. An assault. Really? Bitch, we're trying to give you health care and free prescription drugs. Child care. We're trying to do universal child care. And dude's talking about like, oh, we need to defeat them. Their assault on the radical left. Oh, like Germany. They're like Germany and slavery. Oh, yes. Wait, are you kidding? No. Okay, you really do have to marvel about how they are able to twist historical facts in order to try to fit a narrative. In this case, basically saying all the evils that had happened in the past that were done by the far right, again, slavery, a conservative institution, okay? Fascism, conservative, far right, and all that stuff. And he's trying to project that onto other people, onto the left. It's insane. It's amazing. But look, the modern left, understand that we're generally anti-slavery, obviously, anti-fascist, Antifa, anti-imperialist, anti-authoritarian. The left has actually been the biggest force for freedom in this world. Freedom of and from religion, freedom of speech, freedom to love who you want, financial freedom, and also very important, of course, civil rights. Isn't it funny? Like, oh, yeah, what do you mean the left believes in freedom of speech? You don't believe in freedom of speech. You got cancel culture. Freedom of speech basically means that the government will not imprison you for the things that you say. And of course, there's limits on that, like, for example, making terroristic threats. Freedom of speech, I'm sorry, that doesn't protect you from getting backlash on Twitter if you say something racist or Nazi-ish. So, no, freedom of speech does not protect you from freedom from consequences or freedom to get challenged on your terrible wrong ideas. But again, when you look at every single big issue, the left is generally on the correct side. And it's factual. And that's it. And again, when the right wing, and this is, see, here's the thing. When the right wing is persuaded to adopt those positions, I think that's great. I think we should have more of that. I think that's great. I mean, think about it this way. So, look, society evolves. Society, what happens with society? As they progress, I mean, that's the word, progress. They progress, and they get more left. So here's the thing. You don't see, except with some examples that I've shown you in the past, you generally don't see a lot of conservatives, yes, some, you don't see a lot of them talking about how slavery is amazing and we should bring it back. Again, some will definitely talk about that, and I've shown you that. But it's a minority point of view among the American people. Even Americans who consider themselves conservatives, they're actually pretty liberal on a lot of issues, at least compared to where they used to be in the past in this country. Because guess what? As time changes, attitudes are different. The successive generations are more progressive, and we're actually a progressive country. For example, homosexuality, right? Do you know that in the 1990s, 38% of American conservatives thought being gay was acceptable? That's a really, really low number. Now, among Democrats, it was around 54%. So now, obviously, today, it's in the high 80s for Democrats. Now, among Republicans and Republican leaners, it went up to 54%, saying that, yes, gay people should be accepted. Now, are those numbers anywhere where they should be? No, they should be, in my view, they should be way, way higher. But 54%, that's the majority of Republicans, are like, yeah, gay people are fine. Totally fine. Society, gay people, great, great. We are in favor of people loving who they want to love. Now, that's actually the first time a majority of Republicans have said gay people should be accepted by society. And that, again, goes back to Pew Research surveys going back to 1994. 10 years ago, just 35% of Republicans held the view, a little different than the 38% who said this back in 94. Now, you know why? A couple of reasons. Number one, Obergefell. Obergefell legalized gay marriage. And that's actually fairly recent. So Obergefell made gay marriage legal. Conservatives saw that the society did not fall apart. Okay. And of course, what happened with conservative media? Well, that's a good question. Conservative media went from bashing gay people to another culture war issue, cancel culture, critical race theory. They went to, going after trans people. So, but generally they've stayed away from the gay issue because they're like, okay, gay people are here, we're fine. Country's fine, everything's fine, we accept gay people. That's one of them, right? So basically allowing gay marriage to be legal and gay people to be out and proud, and it normalized these, it normalized these groups, and everybody's fine with it. And everybody's more accepting of it, and that's good. Now, younger people also have to be more socially liberal, even as Republicans, and more accepting of these things. Even, for example, on cannabis, marijuana. So that's a good example to illustrate how we as a society are moving to the left. Even the Republican Party is moving to the left, at least when it comes to social issues. Economic issues, even Republicans support what Jim Jordan calls radical. And let me give you some of the examples on that. Taxing the rich. Now, a poll conducted by Data for Progress and Invest in America showed that 51% of Republicans, a slim majority, said that they are supportive of raising taxes on Americans earning more than $400,000 a year. That included 21% who said they strongly support and 30% who somewhat support the proposal. So, again, $400,000, not super rich, but rich. You're doing pretty good if you're making over $400,000 a year, I would think. Now, the survey also found that 52% of Republicans support increasing taxes on the top 1%. By limiting the expenses they're allowed to deduct from their tax bill, additionally, 52% of Republican voters said they support raising taxes on individuals who earn over $1 million per year through selling stocks and bonds. So some of that stuff, by the way, used to be in Build Back Better, but, and this is important, was stripped out by Republican politicians. And so Republican politicians don't necessarily reflect the economic policies that Republican voters are actually calling for. So that's pretty interesting. On wages, wages, there's a lot of Republicans that are actually against $15 minimum wage because, again, you have conservative media that's telling you, if you raise if you raise wages for workers, that's gonna cost you more. Oh no, that's gonna affect me. Yeah, it's gonna raise it like 10 cents if you raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. But again, conservative media, that's the gigantic conservative bubble. Even so, when it comes to raising the wage to $15 an hour, you ask Republicans, and it really is kind of, when you look at the different income levels, look, Democratic voters are pretty unanimous. Raise the wage to $15 an hour. But Republicans, no surprise, lower income Republicans, 46%, are much more likely than middle, 23%, and upper income Republicans, 18%, to say they favor raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour, even as most of those still do not support it. On healthcare, majority of Republicans still support a public option. They do support allowing Medicare to negotiate prescription drugs. On many of these issues, conservatives agree with the so-called left radical position. Now, the only thing here, as I keep alluding to, as I keep mentioning by name, the conservative media bubble, and of course, the culture war. It's the culture wars. And this is important to point out. All of that information to point out that Jim Jordan is engaging in culture war. He is rewriting history, and he's able to do this because conservative politicians and big money backers have done a lot. For example, the organizations supported by the Koch brothers, or Koch brother, the remaining one anyway, they have attacked education. They have attacked history, and they're still doing it now, again, with critical race theory. Now, the thing they've done with critical race theory is they've expanded that to mean anything that's related to civil rights for black people. They have also built their own echo chamber. And so they have, in the pursuit of viewership, Fox News, as well as profits, because they're all, multinational corporations. And again, you can also involve CNN, MSNBC, these large networks that are corporate as well. Why we call them corporate media. They want to keep their taxes low, and they want to keep, benefits for their workers low, and regulations pretty loose. And so they'll agree with the billionaire perspective and the corporate perspective over the perspective and the needs and the desires and the wants of the actual regular working person. And so that's the real big division here. And so class-wise, as far as economics are concerned, yeah, we do have a lot in common with the Republicans as far as to what we want. And the things that are different, they're only different because this group of people have been propagandized to so heavily and so effectively that they automatically take the side of giant multinational corporations that are actively screwing them over. And so part of that, of course, is to try to challenge conservative media and corporate media, their bubble, and get people into reality, and people into believing or into knowing how progressive this country and they actually are. So, but as I said, Jim Jordan is projecting onto the left what members of the far right have traditionally done. And again, as I've pointed out, most Americans are not members of the far right. They're really not. America is pretty progressive in our belief systems. But our system is so incredibly broken, our media is broken, and causes a lot of division, and we have been divided and conquered as workers, as a working class, by the few who want to hold on to their money, power, and privilege. People just like Jim Jordan.
If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.